what is a custom control and why do we need them? So let's get started and understand what is the purpose of a custom control. So let me quickly switch to my presentation view and start writing about custom control. So one quick question to all of you, those who worked on WebDyn Pro and BSP. If I ask you to design your own control, just the way you're using SAPM button by far, if I ask you to design your own control, can you do it in WebDyn Pro? Is it possible? Is it possible if I ask you to design a completely new control, will you be able to do it in WebDyn Pro or BSP? Those who worked with WebDyn Pro and BSP, anyone? Is it possible? Of course, not possible, because those technologies are bottleneck for developers. So that's why we always say in interview or whenever you go to any technical discussion with regard to SAP UI5, then you will always hear this in the market that SAP UI5 doesn't become a bottleneck for developer. Okay, so what we say is SAP UI5 doesn't become a bottleneck for developer. Correct? Why we say this is because it is based on open standards and it allows you to also do things which you cannot do with the conventional web technologies like WebDyn Pro and BSP technology. Pretty much fair, right? So we will see one great example of such thing today in our today's class called custom control. So what is custom control and why they are used in reality? The reason behind the custom control is in case if there is a functionality which is not delivered by SAP, you can go and design your own control. Okay, SAP is giving you button, label, text, drop down, list, lot of different variety of controls. But just in case, if you have some requirement where SAP doesn't fulfill your need by providing you the control, then in such cases you can go with custom controls. Okay, you can design your own control, and that's what we will see today. So if you remember, in one of the session I was telling you that we do not have a heading control in UI5, right? There is no heading control, so which is typically produces an H1 tag. It's not there. So we'll see how to design a heading control in SAP UI5 way. Now before we proceed, I will ask here two questions to you. My first question is, which is the superclass of all UI controls which we saw by far in our system? Anybody? We saw the control hierarchy chapter. Can anybody tell me the name of the superclass which is having perfect answer? Majority of you giving correct answer, but I see a lot of problems. Some people just writing the library name, some people just writing it not in the proper standard like camel case statement. So it is SAP UI core is the library name, SAP UI core is in small letters, and then control C is capital. That's very important, guys, because it's case sensitive. So this is the super class for all the controls, which means when we want to design custom control, we will take this as our super class. Fine, that's your first thing. Second question to all of you, what is the keyword used to indicate inheritance in JavaScript? Perfect answer, it is extends. So we are going to extend SAP UI core control library, basically control object, to create our custom control. Fair enough? So this is what we will be doing, guys. By extending it, we will be extending a standard UI5 control library to build our own control for our purpose. That's what we will be doing. And now to do that, what will be the syntax? So syntax is going to be, we will have to define the dependency and then use our control class dot extend keyword. Okay, and then inside this we will put the path or the name of the control, then comma, and then we will put here function, sorry, not function, we will put curly braces, and then inside this we have three different sections of this curly braces. Okay, we will have three different sections inside this. So first section is called metadata, very important section, metadata. What does it mean? I will explain you in a minute. Inside the metadata you will typically have properties of a control, you will have aggregation, right? This is how you see any control designed in UI5. And third, you see events. Of course you can have methods as well. So this is all what you have typically inside the control definition, a metadata of the control. The second thing which you have is an init function. Okay, and finally you will have renderer function, which has two default argument, ORM and OControl. Okay, that's how you design any custom control in UI5. So you will have three different sections when you're designing your custom control. A metadata section, this describes all the properties, events, methods, and aggregation of your custom control. You remember that whenever we use, let's say, button or any control in UI5, we typically always um, consume these properties, events, and methods, correct? So that's what we typically consume it all the time. So you have to define them as your control properties aggregation, because you are defining our control and giving a whole world an opportunity to make use of this control. Yeah. Then comes is the init function. Init function is like constructor of your control. When somebody instantiate the object of your control, then this particular init method will be called. So this can be used for initializing your attributes or basically properties of your UI control. And then comes is the renderer function, very important. Now, can anybody tell me what happens behind the scenes when you are consuming a UI5 control? What the UI5 framework runtime does? Anyone? What is that UI5 framework runtime does when you basically write a code in UI5 using XML or JavaScript? What it does behind the scenes? Anybody? You remember my previous chapters? What is that? Absolutely, you're all right. It basically converts your code to equivalent HTML code which browser can understand. And this was covered in our previous chapter. Let me show you that. So don't think that this was not at all covered. So here you see in this 31 number slide, we have discussed this in the past. Whenever you submit this code to UI5 runtime component, and there is something called a renderer which converts this code to equivalent HTML and CSS and JavaScript code, correct, to the browser, because browser understand these things directly. That's why you need it, correct? So if you just come down once again, you will see there is something called renderer method, which we have noted down. So what will be the functionality of this renderer method? Anybody? Can you guess? What is that which we need to do now as part of this renderer function? Anyone? What should we do now as part of this renderer function? We should write the equivalent HTML code. Okay. We should tell the system that this should be the equivalent HTML code which should be produced. Okay, which should be produced. That's what we need to do it. An equivalent HTML code has to be written for this. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So now I'm going to write an equivalent HTML code, but how do you talk to browser? How do you tell the browser that this is the equivalent HTML code? For that you need an object, you need a medium, right? And that's what this medium is, ORM. ORM is the object of the renderer, is the renderer object to talk to the browser and tell the browser to put something in DOM that we can decide. Okay. Then next object which you see, the default object is oControl object. oControl object is the self-reference of your custom control. Okay, just like in ABAP, within the method we have me keyword, or in JavaScript we have this keyword. Similarly here, oControl is the object of current control which we are designing. Okay, that's what it is. Current control, object of current control which we are designing. With the help of this object we can access which is oControl. With the help of this object oControl we can access properties. Okay, we can access all the properties basically. Okay, fine. So let's go ahead and now create our first custom control in the system. So let's go back, and I'm going to design it in a way that it's reusable. Okay guys, so what I will be doing is I will design into a completely different separate file, and that separate file we will be defining our entire custom control from scratch. Fine. And then once that definition is done, we will use that custom control library basically, and then we will consume it in our view. So let's first build a used case. So what I'm going to do is I'll just quickly execute our code and see what to do. So I will execute our program which we are designing by far. Let me run this into another session so that we can work with Alt Tab. Okay, so here we see that we have a lot of different things. So now what I want is this more product data. I want it to be as a H1 tag, heading tag, and UI5 doesn't give me an H1 tag by default. Okay, UI5 framework doesn't give me the H1 tag functionality basically. So for handling H1 tag now, I have to probably design a custom control myself. So let's do that. And then we will replace this more product data with that H1 tag. Okay, so right now if you right click on this the control and do an inspect element, you find that it's an H4 tag. Okay, so just wanted to show you how will it look like later point of time. I'm replacing it with H1 tag, press enter. So this is how it should look like. Oops, it didn't reflect any change with respect to H1. Okay, but fine, you will ultimately see an H1 tag which is little bolder than this. Okay, and that's not provided by UI5. I'm going to design that control myself. So let's go ahead and do that. We will come back to Web IDE, web app folder, of course, right click, and now I'm putting a new folder called controls. All my definition of custom control has to be in a separate folder. Right click, new file, and then I'm just gonna put the new file name. Let's say my heading is the name of the control, and then I'm gonna define scaffolding UI.define, and then in this first thing comes is the dependency. Now I did a mistake guys, I forgot to put JS extension for the file, which is an important point. Without that, you see the coloring also not happening in my code, and it's not giving me code completion. So let's delete this and also recreate it with the JS extension. So new file, my heading .js. So that's the JS extension, SAP UI define, and then of course the scaffolding template which we have to create a function, curly braces, and then this function has to return something out basically. So that's what we need to do. So let me just make it little arrangeable. Yeah, and then in this we will return something out, and we will return like this something out. And what we will return, actually we will note down here the definition of our custom control. So what is the dependency here you want to use? Anyone? Just now I showed you which is the dependency, which is the library you will use to define your custom control. Anyone? What is the dependency? Which library will you be using? Anybody? Which library I told you to use to define? Yes, SAP UI core control. So that's what you will define here on the top. SAP/UI/core/control class. That's a super class for all the controls, and just put it here control. And then now we'll extend it. So we'll say return, and then I say I want to define control.extend. So I'm extending it now. Okay, I'm defining a new control.extend, and then inside this control.extend, I'm going to write as per our syntax the entire definition. Okay, so we will be writing the definition of our custom control, basically 3 sections which I mentioned you. I'm going to write all those 3 sections. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. So we will be writing all the 3 sections. Now, one tiny mistake you see, it's giving me an error here. The reason is pretty simple. Since I'm returning the control object, created control object as a return parameter, I should not use curly braces. So this curly braces is unnecessary. I should just return the control.extend. Okay. Yeah, correct. You're right. So that's what I should return. And this extra semicolon is also a problem. I save this, and now in this control.extend, I'm going to write the path, full path. So my Fiori is the namespace dot my library name. Library name is controls dot my heading, and then come comma curly braces, and here now you write 3 sections as I mentioned: metadata. Next section is your init function. So you can leave these functions also empty without any implementation, not a big problem. And then renderer function. And as we discussed, we should have 2 default arguments called ORM and OControl as part of your renderer function. We are ready. Yeah, that's it. You can see now we have defined our return parameter as a control object out. Yeah, perfect. Seems nice. Hope you all understood. Let me repeat once again. So this is first the dependency declaration of the super control from which you're going to extend and create your custom control. That dependency is always sent as an object parameter to the method. And then you are just saying, I want to extend the standard UI5 control by defining my own control. And this is going to be the name of my own control. 3 sections: metadata, init, and renderer. In the metadata, you can put the properties, events, aggregation, and functions, and of course leave them as a blank at this point. So I just put properties, empty, events, empty, aggregation, empty, and methods, empty. Now, if you just want to relate this, you can also go back to SAP UI5 SDK and just check for control documentation in UI5 SDK. So search for maybe any control in UI5. In fact, you can see this also fragment over here, control. You see you have properties, events, methods, and of course you will also have aggregation as we are experiencing it by far in our previous units, that we typically have all these sections for every control. You see, you have properties. Okay, so let me just come to button class here and show you all the properties, events, aggregation, and methods basically. So you see, you have properties, associations, events, methods, and constructor. Constructor means all your init function basically. This is your init function, constructor. Okay, so these are all the properties, events, aggregation, and methods, init and renderer. Now I want to do very tiny small thing now. As of now, I just going to tell the browser that you write for me in h1 tag. When somebody use this control, write an h1 tag for me, and I say this is Anubhav's class. Okay, and that's what I wanted to produce as an HTML, equivalent HTML. Remember guys, the control means equivalent HTML for UI5 framework. So now this is your own custom control. Anybody can use it. Fine. So now let's go ahead and use it in our XML view. So I'll go to our second XML view. Here it is. And in this second XML view, first we have to define the namespace. So XML namespace, and I can say Anubhav equals to my library, which is SAP my Fiori dot controls. This is my library. See, this is my library, guys, in which all the controls are present. Yeah. So now Anubhav is my library name. So library is a collection of JS files, right? So this is first JS file in this library. And now just come to my, okay. Now this is something which is used in fragment. If you remember, we had used it in fragment. So I'm just going to remove it from here and put it inside our fragment. So go to fragments for additional data and put the library over here, Anubhav, with the name Anubhav. And now just use this Anubhav. First of all, I'm removing the title out of the simple form. I'm removing the title completely and just putting here Anubhav colon, and now my control name is my heading. Don't do mistake with case sensitivity. Be little careful with it, and that's it. My control, custom control, is now part of my XML code. So anybody can guess what will happen as a result? What will you see as a result of this? Anyone? Can you guess what will happen on the UI? Anyone? What do you think will happen on the UI when I now execute it? What will you see on the UI as a new content? What content you will see now on the UI? What did we design? What did we put? No, we should see an H1 tag. An H1 tag, if you remember in our HTML chapter, it's going to produce an H1 tag with this text, whatever I had put. Let's experience it. So come back. Yes, this is Anubhav's class. That's what you're going to see on the UI. So refresh the page. Hopefully it should work. And then we'll see, yes, voila, you see this is Anubhav's class. It has produced an output. This is what SAP UI5 framework was not allowing me, because it was not having an H1 control, and I had designed my own control and published it. Yes, that's the beauty of UI5. It allows you to design your own controls. You can write the equivalent HTML, and people who use your control will leverage the power of it. But do we do it very often in projects? Of course not. We first see if there is a support from UI5 for certain things directly. If it is not there, then unfortunately we have to go with this custom control development approach, because this would lead to maintenance on your head only. Imagine it's your custom code basically. You are responsible for it completely. SAP will not take any responsibility. But yes, in projects where you have extensive UI5 development, where none of the requirements of your existing UI5 controls from SDK suit your purpose, you can go with the development of custom control on your own. Yeah, that's what you can go for. So let's go ahead and now do something interesting over here. Now let me add another control inside the fragment. So I will add another Anubhav basically. So hope you understanding it, that I'm adding another control, just like you are adding button, guys. Similarly, you can now add this control. So what will happen now on the UI? Any guess? Anyone? What will happen on the UI now? Any guess? What do you think will happen on the UI now? Of course, you will see two times the same content gets displayed. Just like you put two button controls, similarly you see two times it is put. Now, do you think, guys, that we put this code, put this control for put this control for displaying this is Anubhav's class all the time? What do you think? If you put a button always in UI5, will it always show a fixed text? Or is that you want what text you want to display, that it will display, right? So what do you think? Do you want always a hard-coded text to be part of this H1 tag? Or do you want the person who using the control should define this text and that text should appear, right? Just the way we send the text property for this button, approve, and then it become the text of the button, right? So we should be, or the person who is consuming the control should be able to pass the text of the h1 tag to you, right? Very important point. So for that to happen, what we will do is we'll define now a property. So let's come to properties section, and here we will define a new property. Let me give the new property name as, let's say, text property. Whatever like you can give Spider-Man. That's not a problem. And that's what my new property is. And what I will do is I'll make use of this property and embed this property value into my code. So can anybody tell me, if you have a property in UI5, what is that you will have by default available? If you have any property, yes, you will have setter getter method. So I want to now remove the hard coding here, okay, and just want to do little interesting stuff. So I will now access that property using getter method, but you need an object, right? To call a method, you need an object. Now, which object shall I use to call the method get Spider-Man? Anybody? Perfect answer, Kumar. You understood the concept. This is the object of the control itself. So you have a property inside this control called Spider-Man. So I say O control, which is the object of my control, UI5 control, which I'm creating itself, and then say get Spider-Man. Notice here, the Spider-Man is a property, and when you do get method, it should follow naming convention. First letter is small, next consecutive word, first letter is capital. So you may see Anubhav has put Spider-Man small, but he is accessing property using S capital. That's what the naming convention is for getter and setter methods. Save this. Now you watch magic. So what will happen? I go to my view, basically my fragment, and now here I can pass the value Spider-Man equals to my personal data, and then another Spider-Man equals to wow. Save this. Watch carefully on the UI. What will happen now? User is who is using control is passing the text, and that text gets appeared on the UI. That's the beauty of properties. Hope it's clear. So there are two job roles here, guys, in UI5. One person. So there are a lot of job opportunities created in UI5 these days. Okay. So there are a lot of different job profiles, different roles with people work with. So let me quickly tell you what each person does in a company. So first role is the core UI5 developer, which is what majorly this course we are focusing on. This course we focused on developing UI5 and Fiori applications, right? So these persons will use existing or custom controls and design the software, or basically code the software. Okay, this is the UI5 developer or Fiori developer person does. Okay, that's what we have focused in this course. Then comes another something called UX designer. UX designer role is to use build tool or mockup tools to design the user experience. How will it look like? What are all the colors? How will you put different tables? Where will you put controls? So this person will only focus on design part of the UI5. Yeah, this person only focus on the development. Then comes is the custom code developer. This developer only focus on developing custom controls. Who he would develop the custom control, just like SAP button is a control. He will develop a lot of custom controls for you, and you can consume those custom controls in your app. That's the third job profile in the market. And then comes is a Fiori consultant job. Fiori consultant responsibility to activate standard Fiori apps, okay, extend them, and also work with Launchpad. Configure the SAP Fiori Launchpad, do the necessary roles, authorizations, and stuff like that. So this is more like a basis work plus developer work. Okay, Fiori consultant. So these are all the main 4 different job profiles you will see in the market people are doing. And then of course there are documentation people who are just writing documentation. There are people who are just doing pure basis work. So more or less this is what 4 types of jobs you will see it in the market for you. Now with the current course we are actually getting our hands into this part which we are doing today. Of course this part is our core business, and this is what we will see some glimpse of it. Okay, and if you want to go deep dive inside Fiori consultants work, then you have to subscribe my next course, onlinefiorytrainings.com, and here you will see a concept or a course for Fiori consultant. So there you will see how to design the Fiori launchpad and stuff like that. So one second, let me pause this video. Okay, so you see Fiori enhancements, launchpad, and Web IDE. So this course will explain you the architecture of the entire gateway in detail, different variety of deployments, and then how to activate, create roles. Basis work basically, how to create roles, authorizations for user, for designer, using Launchpad Designer, theme designer for custom branding purpose, and then creating your Fiori Launchpad, configuring login, logout screens, working with Cloud Connector, mock server. Then you have how to deploy different apps using standard templates in detail, deploying them into the system and activating your Launchpad tile, creating groups, catalogs, and attaching them to the role, and all of that will be covered. Extensibility, very important point. How do you extend standard Fiori apps? I have taken example of real-time timesheet app and showed how do you extend them, standard Fiori app, and deploy them as a custom, how to extend OData services, and also used a KPI modeler concept from S4 HANA to create an analytical app. So this is what in nutshell in this course is covered, which will take you to a little advanced level. And now there is also another job role recently which is getting so popular, ABAP come Fiori developer. This is basically S4 HANA consultant, S4 HANA technical consultant who knows ABAP also, okay, and who knows little bit of Fiori also. So here what they do, they build pure analytical apps on S4 HANA. And for that, you need to have knowledge on ABAP on HANA, which includes topics like CDS views, very important, and annotations. And using that, you can build quickly a Fiori application and then deploy that in your S4 HANA system. So that's another job profile getting so much of popularity. Again, the prerequisite for this is ABAP on HANA, and that's already I am offering as a new course, ABAP on HANA, and recently published free interview questions on ABAP on HANA, guys, prepared by one of my student. Her name is Charu. She has prepared this interview question by going through my sessions on ABAP on HANA, and I think now everybody can leverage it. So you can download these interview questions absolutely free from internet, from my website, and make use of it before you have any interview on ABAP on HANA, if at all. Okay. Of course, if, again I repeat, no copy paste. You have to go deep dive in the concepts, then come and attend the course. Otherwise, at least you are good to go ahead with it. Okay. Yes, S4 HANA concepts like CDS view, virtual data modeling, creating analytical apps on S4 will be covered as part of this course. That's main thing. Now, after completing these 3 courses, nobody can touch you. You can work on S4 HANA projects easily. Believe me, easily, very easily, you can work on SAP S4 projects after completing all 3 of these courses. Nobody can touch you. You will have deep knowledge of the technology stack right from top to the bottom, presentation, application, and database. All 3 layers you will be mastered into. In this course, I have also taught HANA modeling, introduction to HANA, evolution of SAP HANA database. Yeah, you just check out some free videos here on my YouTube channel. I had posted a playlist, so just go to YouTube, search for ABAP on HANA, and then you will find my video. Here it is, the second one, and you click on my name, Anubhav Oberoi. It will take you to my channel, and after going to my channel, go to playlist, and in the playlist here you will find the ABAP on HANA tutorials. So there are some free videos I had posted for you to have a look at it and experience how will it be. So in this, you see, I've also taught how to set up your ABAP on HANA server yourself. So you don't need to run behind anybody to set up your server. I taught you how to set up your own ABAP on HANA server yourself. Yeah, even we had discussed detailed about SQL scripting. Nobody will teach you SQL script when you go for ABAP on HANA or SAP HANA course. I've seen many trainers teaching HANA, but they don't touch much on SQL script. They will simply do copy paste of a ready-made sample to show you output. They don't teach you SQL script. The modularization, the coding, the techniques, the user-defined function procedures. They don't teach you in detail. It's covered in my course in ABAP on HANA itself. So combination of both HANA DB and ABAP together, and how ABAP on HANA works with latest techniques like ABAP managed data procedure, ABAP database connectivity, CDS views, proxy objects, transportation, analytical tools, creating Fiori app on VDM data model in S4, all that is covered. And then if you want to take yourself to a completely new level, I would say go with this one, end-to-end application development in cloud. That's HANA Cloud Platform course basically. So HANA Cloud Platform, and which is now known as SAP Cloud Platform, is getting lot of popularity in the market right now. So if you want to develop a few complete application, Java application in HCP and deploy it with OData service, you can go with this course. In this, I started with core Java basically. So core Java, Java Persistence API, Eclipse Link Library, JNDI lookup, ODBC, JDBC drivers, then Apache Olingo framework, Maven, dependency management, Tomcat tool, SAP HANA Cloud Platform, SDK, and then exposing the OData service from a shared access HANA database, and then consuming it into a Fiori app built also into the cloud, deploying it in HANA Cloud. HANA Cloud Platform Cloud Portal, and then exposing it complete cloud solution to the users, and managing roles, groups, catalogs into the HANA Cloud Platform, and authorizations for the users with destination configuration and stuff like that. All that is taught and covered in this course. Complete cloud-based solution can be built using this particular course. So that's about the complete stack of learning. With this knowledge, I think you are unbeatable, untouchable in the market. With the current set of scenarios, current set of technologies, this is what is going hot in the market right now. Okay, as of now. Okay, let's continue. So these are all the different job profiles. So as you see here, the custom code development, sometimes if it's simple, you can do it, but typically there are developers, dedicated developers hired for that, who does the development of custom controls themselves into the project, and your duty is just to consume them. So just consume it, that's it, you are done. But if your company says you have to only do all the work, then okay, fine, no problem, you can set up and define your own custom control. Let's do some more interesting stuff in this custom control now. So what I'm going to do is I'll add another property. Let me add it a color property. Whatever name you like, you can give it. And then I'm going to build the CSS accordingly. If you all remember the CSS chapter, yeah. So what we will do now, I'm going to build a CSS. So I'm just going to say here in this called style property equals to single quote color colon, and then I'm going to add the color property using oControl dot get color, and then I just going to end this, save it, and now come back to fragment and see the magic. So I'll just now pass color for this as blue and color for wow as red. Okay, so guess what will happen? As a result, the building HTML, the HTML which gets built in, which gets created, it will have now the color inside as a style, and you would see my text in different colors now. So refresh and voila, you see the text has been converted to different colors, and that's all authenticated because you are using SAP UI5 framework to define your custom control. That's how SAP had defined all these controls. What you see, they have created a renderer for all of them, different properties, aggregation, and events. You pump in the data, it produces the output for you. Same way, the way we are doing our custom control, We are pumping the color data. Based on that, the output is changed. Basically, it's equivalent HTML is getting produced, which you will feel like, okay, this is my custom control. Actually, behind the scenes, it's all an equivalent HTML plus CSS code which gets created and submitted to the browser, because browser don't understand UI5. Browser only understand HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Correct? So that's what we are doing by writing a renderer to convert an equivalent HTML and CSS code. Great. Now, what else? So you see, over a period of time, if you want to add more and more style properties, the code will become very cumbersome, right? It will become so big. So to avoid such a situation, we can break down the piece of code into small pieces. Let me show you how. So orm.write, you will start with h1 tag. Okay, that's first thing. And then you can use orm.add style. In this, now you can add one by one all the style coding what you need. So property name and property value, oControl.getColor, like this. So what this statement does, it writes the style code into a buffer. Okay, it writes the style code into a buffer, and you can just add all the styles what you need. So I say color, and let's say also use border, and then I'll say oControl.getBorder. I just come here, say border, and then yeah, once this is done, I'm happy with all my style code. So I will flush the buffer, and I'll say from the buffer whatever is there, you give it to the browser. So I say rm.write styles. This will now flush the buffer, and whatever is there in buffer will be now written into the browser. Okay, so this is better. You can see it's modularized. Easily you can understand and make the changes and add your style code to the final result set. And then finally, of course, you have to close um, the h1 tag and append your text, which is oControl.get Spiderman, I guess. That's my property name, plus h1 tag should be closed. So that's your better way of writing the same code with its styling. Now border property is also in place, so let's make use of it over here. So I'm just going to add a border for wow. So I just say border equals to 2 pixels solid red. Save this. Let's come back, refresh the page. Oops, something is not right. Press F12 and see what went wrong. And you see ORM is not a function. So I think we are doing some mistake. Let's go back and check. So it's here. ORM, it's saying not a function. Okay, I forgot to do a write statement, guys. Very important, because I'm going to write it into the DOM. That's the function name after ORM. Refresh. And voila, you see a 2 pixel solid red color border is appearing around my second text. I have not given a border for first one, so it's not coming. Now you can also define some default values for your property quite easily, because that's what the init function is built for. So what you can do is you can say this dot set, and I can say border. Yeah, you see it's giving me code completion, and I can say 2 pixel solid black. If there is no border property given for a control, this will be the default value which will appear for my control. And now you see a 2 pixel solid black border is coming for the first control, because I've not given any border value. For second one, I've given a border value, so that gets overwritten with the default one. Okay, that's the beauty of your custom control in SAP UI5. You can build your own control. That's not all, but you also now can extend a standard UI5 control based on your choice. So let me take an example. So you see this button over here. Now, what is the event which button offers? Can anybody tell me? What are all the different events a button control offers? It only offers a press event. There is no other event other than press. Tap is obsolete. So press is the only event which a button offers. Now, when will the press event gets called? Anybody? When will the press event gets called? Anyone? When will the press? When you click on it. correct? When you click on the button, that time it gets called. That's the user action which triggers an event, click event, right? Now, my company says that I want to trigger an event when I focus on it, right? You might have seen this. When you focus on something, it triggers an event. Now, is it possible with UI5 framework to use an event which triggers when you focus on the button? Is it given in the list? Is there any event which triggers when you focus on the button? Can you attach to an event when you focus on a button? There is nothing, right? Now, but still I want that functionality in my coding. How can I achieve it? How can I achieve it? So absolutely, you will now extend a button class, which means all the features of button, you will take it as it is, and on top of it, you will add your own functionality. That's why we say SAP UI5 doesn't become a bottleneck for developer. You can even extend standard UI5 controls based on your need. If there's something which is not satisfying the requirement. I remember one chapter where I was discussing about something and you said, is this possible? Then I checked, there was no property, there was no event. Yeah. And that's the real use case why you use a custom control feature. Because if something doesn't give you the required functionality by itself, then you can definitely go with the custom control. You can extend that control and you can go with the custom control feature. That's the beauty of using SAP UI5. So let's go ahead and now do this for a button code. So what I'm gonna do is I will define another custom control, and that's going to be inheriting this time from button class, not from core class. So let's do that. Right click and just say new file, and I say super button. This is a super button code. Okay, .js of course, because all is JavaScript, scaffolding template, and then dependencies inside the box, and then function, curly braces, and this should return a object of the control. Now, one question to all of you, what will be your dependency now? Anyone? What will be your dependency? What is that you're trying to do? What is that you're trying to extend now? Anyone? What is that you're trying to extend now? Anybody? What will you extend now? Absolutely, you will extend a button code. So existing UI5 button you will be extending. So let's write it here in the dependency, the existing one. So I'll just put here and say SAP/m/button. That's going to be my button code. And I just say button over here. And then I say return button.extend. Okay. And then of course my complete path, my Fiori dot, my folder name is controls dot, and my control is super button. That's what I'm defining. Be careful, it's case sensitive. If you do mistake, there's no way out. You got to now check whole code once again. Okay, great. That's the definition. So I want to tell the system there are properties. So sorry, it all comes in metadata. Three sections. Remember, never forget these three sections. Init function and renderer. Okay. So do you want to also change the look and feel of the button? Of course not. Then we don't touch the renderer. We just keep it empty. Do you want to initialize something? Nothing. Then you just also keep it empty, which means it will call the super class code. If you just leave it here, it will just call the super class code as it is. It won't change anything for you. Okay. That's very important for you to understand. It won't change anything for you. So that's what we are doing now. We are just keeping it curly braces, which means call the superclass. We don't want to do anything. Only in the metadata section, that too in events, I am now going to define a new event, and I will call this event as, let's say, uh, a Mario. So I'm defining a new event called Mario and putting in empty curly braces, which means any function can attach to the Mario. This means any function can attach to Mario, any object can attach to Mario event. But now this event, when should it trigger? So there is no event provided by the button class. That's why we are developing it. So we have to now rely on standard JavaScript event. So can anybody tell me the JavaScript event for when user mouse over on element? It's a hover? I don't think so. You see guys, this is the JavaScript event name. Okay, this is the JavaScript event name on Mouseover. Whenever you take your mouse onto a control, this is the event which triggers. Try. Let's try. So you see there's a smiley. I take my mouse on the smiley, it becomes bigger. I remove it, it goes slow. I take it again, becomes bigger. So that's what happens. That's the mouse on mouse over event, guys. This is a standard JavaScript event which triggers when user takes the mouse on the control. So we will attach to this one, and when user does this, we will propagate the call to our custom event. Okay, we will propagate the call to custom event. So I will come here after renderer. I will just say on mouse over, and you see guys, web IDE is giving me code completion for that. On mouse over, yes, yeah, on mouse over, and that's what it is doing. And this is of course something called function we need to attach to it now. Now can anybody tell me, if I want to call an event, if I want to trigger an event of my control, what shall I do? Anybody? Which method gets created by default for every event in UI5? Who will answer this question? Which event gets created, which method gets created for any event created in my control? No, incorrect answer. Which method, just like setter getter method for every property, which methods gets created in UI5 for every event? You all have forgot? No, not on Mario. Let me take you back to the previous PPTs where this was also covered as FundaFox. So for every property, there will be one setter getter method. Similarly, what else gets created for every event? That's what I'm now trying to search in my FundaFox. Let me search that. So what happens behind the scenes? Let's see. And let's see, call function JS. That's jQuery chapter actually. Okay, for every property, setter and getter method gets created. Yes, here it is. So for every property, setter and getter method. Okay, I didn't taught you this. For every event, let me also taught you this. For every event, a fire event name and attach event name and deattach event name methods gets created automatically. So here we created a new event called Mario. You will see a fire Mario method which gets created by default. So you just say this dot fire Mario. Yeah, that's it. That's it. We are done. Now, let me explain you once again quickly what did we do. We defined a subclass, a child class by inheriting from standard button class. We have defined a custom event called Mario, which we want to trigger when user take the mouse on the button. That's when we want to trigger this. So we have to now rely on a standard JavaScript event. And whenever this event comes, I am propagating the call to Mario event. I'm saying the system fire the Mario, and then when user is using the control, they will put Mario event and put a function. That function will get triggered which user is putting. Okay, so user will attach a function to this Mario event, and ultimately when user mouse over, it triggers Mario, and whatever function is written at front of Mario by user will be triggered. Okay, so let's see that. So now I'm going to use this button control in the bottom of the toolbar. So let me just do that in the second view. So I come down to the second view. Okay, where is my second view? It's not used. I come here and now again reference the library. So XML namespace, whatever name I like, I can put it, let's say foo, and I say my Fiori dot controls is the library name, and in that I have a button. So let me put a foo button, foo, and I say super button. If you remember, this was the name I've given. And then, of course, all the properties which you have for a button control will be available for you. Okay, so I say super button. Okay, and then, of course, press event is available for you. You can say change mode. You can use press, of course, but now my interesting point is Mario. And I say on Mario. And I want to now trigger the Mario event. What will happen when Mario event is triggered, which triggers basically on mouse over. Watch carefully when we will test it. So I come here on Mario function. I'm just going to write some functionality over here, and I say maybe I will give a message box. So sap.m.message box API dot alert, and I say wow, I have extended standard functionality of UI5. Yeah, that's what you did. Save it, and let's test this up now. Refresh, you see a new Super Mario button. Sorry, it's not working. There is something wrong. Press F12 and see what went wrong. T.init is not a function. That's the problem. If you come back to your control, you see this init is not a function. Let's remove this, not required. Save it, come back and refresh once again, and wow, you see a super button got created. Now what I'll do is I just hover on edit button, nothing is happening. Yeah, now are you ready, guys? What shall I do to trigger my Mario event? Anybody? What shall I do to trigger my Mario event? What do you think should happen? Just hover your mouse onto the button, and voila, wow, I have extended standard UI5 functionality. Beautiful. This is what something UI5 was not offering you. You have extended the button, and now you have got this feature added to the standard UI5 button by extending the control. If you want to contribute like this to SAP UI5 framework, there is a GitHub library which is available in for Open UI5, and Open UI5 is exactly the same thing. You can extend the standard UI5 control and submit a change request to SAP. If SAP thinks that what you did is an amazing stuff, you have designed a new control or existing control feature, then SAP approves the change and it goes finally with SAP UI5 framework, your code. You can influence SAP and tell, okay, see, this is what I designed. Can you put it into the main library? So there is a GitHub resource for Open UI5, where you can submit your changes by extending standard UI5 controls or creating your custom control. Let's have a look at quickly the code once again. What did we do for this? So once again, I come back. I have defined a new JavaScript file where I had put the dependency this time on a button, and I'm saying extend the button control, put my namespace, my path of the control, and just define the metadata with the new event called Mario. Now, this Mario event triggers with the help of a JavaScript event, because we don't have any other thing, because browser only understands JavaScript. So browser throws this event on mouse over when you take the mouse, which would then we will propagate to the Mario event, because we cannot hard code the function here. It should be provided by end user who's using your control. So what we typically do then is, later on, once this design is done, we go to the view. We will just put the dependency as something foo. Whatever name you like, you can put here Anubhav also, again, not a problem. But that's the namespace. So that's the namespace of your library. And then you can come down, and where you have this library name Anubhav, just put it here. That's a path, that's a namespace of the library. And then you put your button name. And then Mario event, of course, which will be preceded with an event name, a function name which triggers when user hover onto the control. In this function, we have written an alert statement using message box, throwing a message to test if when I hover the mouse, is it triggering. So it's not even allowing me to click. It's just when I hover on the mouse onto the button, it's triggering my event. So that's the whole uh, development what we have done. Okay. Is there any option to use these custom controls globally so that we can use them on all projects? That's the best option. You see, you have created here a control folder. Put this control folder in all projects, but then you say if you modify something in one project, that will not be modified in another one. So for that, you have concept of component.js, reusable component.js concept. Okay, component embedded in another one. But also on the other side, if you see that you developed it today, but now every developer want to enhance it further with their own style, so then you give the folder to everyone, let them reference this folder in their Fiori project, and also they can modify, because it's a deep reference which they do, not a reference which is by reference. So that's when you can then reuse it into your any of the projects. It's actually, that's why I developed in a separate JS file, because it becomes reusable if you do it this way. If you write it directly in the controller, then it is embedded in your controller. That's why I used separate folder for defining them as a separate thing. Component.js, we are yet to come to that chapter. It's still far away. So just hold on. We will come to the chapter of component.js. It's a very important ingredient of UI5. In fact, without component.js, you cannot integrate with Launchpad. If you want to integrate your Fiori app as seamless integration with Fiori Launchpad, you have to have component.js in your project, without which integration will not work. Very important point to note. Okay, so that we will come to that unit. In fact, it's not too far. We are about to reach to that unit. In next 2 or 3 units we'll reach to component.js. Is it used to provide own topic tooltip for elements of tooltip feature? Is already there for standard button, so you don't need to worry, because you extended standard button. All features of standard button are also available to you. Let me show you. So I'll go back to the view and just use the tooltip, because since it's inheriting from the standard button, all the features of standard button anyways gets inherited. Of course, you won't see this tooltip, because the moment I'm hovering, it is leading to an action to trigger. Let me show you for normal button, a tooltip feature. So tooltip equals to, let's say, my edit button, or I say click to edit the data, save it, and let's come back, refresh, and just hover onto the edit button, and you will see click to edit the data. You see the tooltip is coming up. So that's the standard feature, tooltip property. It's there already. Okay, so click on edit, and now you see you are in the edit mode. Oh, by mistake, I did a hover and it triggered my event over there. Okay, Git developer is custom control developer, right? No, 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 no. Git is just a repository concept. I will touch upon Git in this course, so don't worry. Why you need Git is very simple reason. Now, Pradeep, let's say, will you alone develop the whole application in your company? Will you alone develop whole application in your company, or will you have a team of developers who will develop? Anybody? You will have a team, of course, right? So let's say you have a people of four people a team. Now what happens is, you made one change in the project. Will you email that project to your colleagues, all 3 colleagues? And if they make a change, will they email you the project changes, and you all the day you guys all just circulating emails and making changes of each other in your file? No. You need a repository where you store the project and do just like in ABAP, we have a program. You're working with a program, another developer can't edit. It's in the server, and then when you go to SE38 and open the program, it opens from load from the server, right? And when you activate, the changes goes to the server, gets committed to the server, right? So that's a repository, a BAP repository. Similarly, we have a Git repository concept. When you have multiple people working on same project, how do they organize themselves? How do they work as a team to work with Fiori projects? That's where we use Git repository. It's a repository for all the Java related development, or HTML5 related development, UI5 related development, where you can keep all the files centrally in a repository. Of course, it also controls the version. So repository, team, and version management, that's all will be done by Git. We will look at the tutorials for Git, and if you want to just check out more about Git, it's very famous. Actually, the whole world is using Git, and there's you just go to github.com or check on YouTube GitHub tutorials. You will find hell lot of tutorials on Git. Okay, so this is what we use as a repository management system and version control management system. Suppose somebody did a mistake and you want to roll back to the previous version. So today it's not possible, it's all local, but you can do it when you use Git. So that's also an interesting feature what Git gives you. And the main usage of Git is it's a distributed version management control system. Okay, as compared to other repository systems like Perforce. If you heard about Perforce, these are not distributed, but Git is a distributed repository management system. You will see it in our upcoming chapter how we can use it. This is something, a new topic I'm including in current batch. It was never ever covered in my previous batches, so I'm covering it in this batch as a new topic. Okay, so this topic plus extensibility scenario, which was one request have come, and then a little bit on a UX developer, what your UX developer does. These three topics are, I'm going to include one from my side, two from your request. No more further topics allowed. Otherwise, I have to then skip some important topics which you need to know. Okay, then in detail, if you want to know about extensibility and stuff, you know what you need to do. I already showed you today the course which you should go for a deep extensibility concept, understanding launchpad designing and stuff like that, which is a Fiori consultant's job. But typically in a company, even you considered to be a Fiori expert, then they will come to you only for doing all this stuff. Okay, this is what I observed. Slowly people, your manager, your management, your people around you, they will, after you complete this, they will consider you as an expert in the company, and slowly they will ask you to do this work also, this work also, this work also, and this work also, because they don't know what's going on. Okay, people, believe me, people don't even know. It's all rumors. I see people talking in cafeteria, I am going to learn UI5. Okay, then another person is saying, Arey, don't learn UI5, UI5 is not that good, learn Fiori, Fiori is better. Yeah, so this is how people talk. There are rumors, there are people in the company who just know half knowledge, they don't know complete end-to-end picture. So that becomes a problem, because these rumors will confuse you. Okay, so this is a typical setup in a company, in a good company, where you have different developers for doing different stuff. Okay, there are dedicated UX designers who just focus on branding, designing, positioning of elements. But yes, if you are the only one who knows something about it, you also get this kind of work. But that's good. We are here for work. We are here to leverage the opportunity. And believe me, if you do all this work yourself in your company, then your importance becomes higher and higher, and you have chances to become architect, senior architect soon in your company. So better to don't worry, don't be afraid, learn things properly and utilize each and every opportunity, because people are hungry of opportunities. And if you can grab them before them, you are always in an advantage. Company will always think for you. A manager will always think that if you leave, then something will collapse. So manager will not let you leave the company. Your importance will increase. Of course, this will also reflect in your salary, definitely. And that's our main goal, to make our dependency higher and higher in the company and the team. So you will get respect. When you do sweating, you will automatically get respect of your colleagues. They will all be afraid of you. Okay, people will respect you when you have the right knowledge and when you're delivering with the quality. So don't forget to follow standards. Never do copy paste. With that, it's a wrap. See you tomorrow. We see some interesting concept coming tomorrow. Google Map integration we'll look at with Fiori. Have a nice day and goodbye.